Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another lesson, number 60. Oh, my goodness. Excuse me. Uh, thanks for sticking it out with us there while we struggle through life.
Yeah.
What can I say? It's been rough. I think we're all feeling it. If you're not feeling it, I don't know what's wrong with you. Yeah. Just appreciate you guys being there and coming back for another episode. And it's kind of crazy looking at our analytics. We're still getting like a ton of new downloads. So
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
pretty awesome. All right. So we are back once again with a missing persons case. This time we're going to look at an older missing persons case. This is the case of the missing Sodder children, and while it is an 80-year-old case, it is still a very heartbreaking case for the family. On the night of Christmas Eve, 1945, George, his wife Jeannie, and 9 of their 10 children all settled down to sleep. I'm sure more than excited to wake up on Christmas morning. But they would not get the chance to celebrate the holiday as this family was woken in the middle of the night with their house on fire. 9 out of 10 kids.
Jesus.
That sounds like my grandparents. The house was a total loss, but what was really heartbreaking was that only 4 out of the 9 children made it out of the house, leading the family to think they had just witnessed half of them dying. But when the fire cooled down and investigators got into the ruins, no bodies were found. And so George, Jeannie, and the rest of their family never gave up hope that those 5 kids are still alive, possibly taken by the mafia, or worse, just outright kidnapped or murdered. But little has ever been recovered that connected to the 5 children, so the mystery still endures today. George was born Giorgio Soddo in Italy in 1895. He immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 13. He came with an older brother who went back home as soon as he had made it through Ellis Island. No one knows why George, as he would come to be known, left Italy, as he never talked about it. So it is interesting. They just kind of like sent a 13-year-old across the ocean.
Wow.
To start a new life. Bye, have fun. Don't come back. You'll die. What? Why though?
Right.
Nobody knows. George found work at the railroads in Pennsylvania running water and supplies to other workers. Years later, he would get a job as a driver, and from there, he would go on to open his own trucking company, hauling fill dirt and coal. In 1922, he and Jeannie Caprini. There's an A in there, though.
The Jeannie Caprini.
It's Cipriani. So I think it's Caprani. A shopkeeper's daughter who had also immigrated from Italy as a child got married. The couple settled down in Fayetteville, West Virginia, not North Carolina.
Right.
In a 2-story.
That, I was like, Nashville?
No, that's closer to Raleigh.
Is it?
Yeah.
It was that way somewhere.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time in Fayetteville and Fuckwave Arena when I lived down there. Have no plans on spending time down there again, but
all right.
Not in Fayetteville or like Fuckwave Arena. Weird places.
Yeah.
They lived in West Virginia in a 2-story timber frame house just a couple miles outside of town. This area had a large Italian population, and George's business flourished. They had their first child in 1923 and were seen as a respectable family in the community. However, George was known to make waves in the community as he was very vocal about his opinions. One particular opinion that made him a few enemies was his opposition of Mussolini, which caused arguments with other Italian immigrants within the community.
That's strange. I
Oh,
mean, not strange, but you know.
it gets weirder. By 1942, they had the last of their children, Sylvia, and one of their older sons, Joe, had left to fight in World War II. In 1943, Mussolini lost his power and was executed in 1945.
Was Mussolini Italian?
Yeah,
Oh,
he was an Italian dictator.
all right.
Like, him and Hitler were buddies.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that part of the story, but like,
Yeah, I guess I
I didn't.
need to cover Mussolini. I really don't know a lot about Mussolini. Like, I know the
I
name.
don't either.
I know he was a bad dictator dude. I know he was Italian.
I know
Otherwise,
people say fuck Mussolini, but
yeah, he was up there with Stalin and Hitler and Lenin. Like,
right.
but George's criticism of the late leader had caused some hard feelings. Quote, in October of 1945, a visiting life insurance salesman, after being rebuffed, warned George that his house would go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed, attributing this all to, quote, the dirty remarks you have been making about Mussolini.
Huh.
Another visitor to the house, obstinately seeking work, took the occasion to go around back and warn George that a pair of fuse boxes would cause a fire someday. End quote. That last remark was confusing for George as he had recently had the house rewired when they had a brand new electric stove installed in the kitchen.
Hmm.
The local electric company had given their okay on the work and marked it as safe. To add to the growing unease, the older children reported seeing a car parked along the main road through town, with whomever was in the car seeming intent on watching the younger children on their way home from school. On that fateful Christmas Eve, the family was having a fun night of celebration. The oldest daughter, Marion, had been working at a dime store and brought home new toys for three of her younger sisters, Martha, Jeannie, and Betty. The girls were excited about their new toys. The girls were so excited about their new toys, they asked their mother if they could stay up past their bedtime to play with them. Jeannie said yes, as long as the two boys still awake, Maurice and Louis, remembered to put up the cows and feed the chickens. Which, like, maybe do that before 9 o'clock at night. Farm life, though. I don't know.
Yeah. When other time do you got to do it?
I don't know. George and the two older boys, John and George Jr., were already asleep as they had worked all day, and it was around 10 p.m. when she told the children this. Jeannie then took the youngest, Sylvia, upstairs, and the two went to bed. Jeannie remembers next hearing the phone ring around 12:30 in the morning. When she answered it, there was a woman she didn't recognize asking for a person she didn't know. She remembers hearing laughter and clinking glasses in the background before she told her she had the wrong number. Jeannie then started back to bed, but stopped as she noticed the lights were still on and the curtains were still open, both things the kids would have done before they went to bed. Seeing Marion asleep on the couch, she assumed the kids must have stayed up late and forgotten, so she shut off the lights, closed the curtains, and headed back to bed. A few minutes later, at 1 a.m., Jeannie was woken again, this time by the sound of something hitting the roof and rolling. Hearing nothing else, she once again fell back to sleep. Which some people that I've heard cover this case have been like, how could she not like be curious? And I'm like, y'all should come to my house sometime. Listen to the nuts hitting the roof, listen to tree branches hitting the roof. We get a storm, we get loud, loud thunks because fucking branches hitting the roof and shit. Sometimes you
Yeah.
just, oh, are the dogs barking? No, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, about 30 minutes later, she awoke, but this time to the smell of smoke.
Hmm.
This time, when she went to investigate, she found a fire burning in the room George used for his office. It seemed to be focused in one area around the telephone line and fuse box. Jeannie rushed to wake George, who then woke the two older boys. As Jeannie, George, Mary, and Sylvia, John, and George Jr. fled the burning house, they were cut off from getting to the younger children's attic room as there was already fire in the stairwell. They yelled up the stairs for them, but there was no response. The family attempted to call the fire department from their own home phone, but found it not to be working. Marion ran next door to call the fire department while a passing driver on a nearby road went to the local tavern and called the fire department. Neither were able to get through to the fire department from the phones they were using, but finally either the neighbor or the driver was able to find a phone in town that could get through, which, like, phone lines were fucking weird in the 1940s, okay? Back at the house, the elder George climbed up the outside wall of the house and broke open a window. He and the older boys were planning on using their ladder to get into the attic, but it was not where it was supposed to be when they went to get it, and it could not be found anywhere near the house.
Hmm.
There was a barrel of water that they were going to use, but unfortunately it was frozen. George had then attempted to bring his trucks over to the house to climb on those, but despite them working fine the day before, neither of the trucks would start.
Mm.
With nothing else to try, the Sodder parents and the four children who had managed to escape had to stand by and watch their home and what they believed to be half of their family burn to the ground.
Damn.
Whew, this next part, every time that I hear this next part, I'm just like, it's one of those things that you just kind of stop and you're just like, wow. It would take hours for the fire department to show up to the scene, partially because the war had taken many of the able bodied men from the town, and also because the fire chief, F.J. Morris, was too drunk to drive the fire truck
Oh
and
no.
had to wait for someone else to get there to drive.
Well.
Sir, you're the fire chief. Unless you know you have somebody else on call, you're not allowed to get drunk.
You would figure.
That's just the way it is. Once the firefighters did arrive, there wasn't much for them to do. They spent some time sifting through the remains, telling the family around 10 a.m. they found no bones in the debris. Now, they did not do a deep dig of the area, and other accounts claimed they did find bone fragments and organ matter, but chose not to tell the family. The fire chief did believe that the fire was probably hot enough to burn bones and told George to leave the site undisturbed so the state fire marshal's office could do a more thorough investigation. But that was too much for the Sodders to bear, and just 4 days later, George bulldozed 5 feet of dirt over the site with the intention of making a memorial garden. The next day, the local coroner conducted an inquest, which concluded that the fire had been caused by faulty wiring. Interestingly, one of the jurors on the inquest was one of the men who had threatened that the house would burn down due to George's anti Mussolini remarks.
It's always how they get you.
Mhm. On December 30th, death certificates were issued for the five children, and their funeral was held on January 2nd, 1946.
And that is uh, authoritarian.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. George and Jeannie were too overcome with grief to attend, but the rest of the children did. It would not take long for the family to start to question the official report of what happened. One thing that bothered them was if the fire was due to an electrical issue, why did the Christmas lights stay on during the early part of the fire when the power should have went out?
Uh,
Then, more ominously, the ladder that had been propped up against the side of the house was found at the bottom of a hill 75 feet away. Add to
mm,
that, when a telephone repairman looked at the phone line, he told them it had not been burned by fire, but rather someone had climbed up a 14-foot pole and reached out over 2 feet to cut the wire.
mm, suspicious.
Mm. A man was arrested for stealing from the property, and he claimed to have been the one to cut the line, saying that he believed it had been a power line. But Jeannie wondered why he would have bothered cutting the line when he was just stealing a pulley system from the property. Jeannie also began to question Morris's theory the kids were completely burned in the fire. For one, there were still appliances that were recognizable in the aftermath, as well as pieces of the tin roof. She also noticed the case of another fire that had killed a whole family. In that case, skeletal remains of all 7 of the family members had been found. Jeannie Jeannie then took to doing some experiments by burning animal bones to see if she could get them to burn completely.
I mean, everything burns eventually,
She
like,
was never able to, though.
if you can get it hot enough, but
Well, here's the thing. When she contacted a local crematorium, they told her that some human bones will remain even after a body is burned at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit or
woo,
1,090 degrees Celsius.
right,
That is much hotter than any house fire could get without the aid of an accelerant.
sure.
And I know this is the case because I have had 2 relatives cremated, and both of them had bone fragments in the bags.
So then
Pretty sure I have a little canister, like a
makes you
little film canister with my uncle's ashes, and you can shake it.
makes you question whether the firemen that told them that was being truthful or not,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm. Oh, yeah, the fire chief, well, he was fucking drunk too.
That's true. What does he know?
That's
He's drunk.
probably hot enough to burn up the bodies, and the
It
crematorium's
might
like,
be.
"Yeah, I have a little canister with some of my uncle's ashes in it, and you can shake it, and there's a piece of bone in it that rattles."
Yeah,
It's one of the weirdest fucking things ever to be like,
yeah.
with my uncle's
Well,
ashes.
different parts of bones have different amounts of calcium,
Yeah,
and
different
they're
densities
just
and stuff.
all different.
And yeah, at 2,000 degrees, like, I found pieces of my mom's bone in her ashes. Like,
Yep.
there's still gonna be bones. In a
Sure.
house fire, I'd say most of them may get up to 1,500 degrees
Okay.
Fahrenheit
So
if it's just a house fire burning wood and everything else.
is she gonna go dig them up?
No, no. The trucks not starting was also looked at. George believes they may have been messed with, possibly by the same man who stole from them. But much later, one of his sons said that it was possible due to their rush to start the trucks, they may have flooded the engines, which obviously isn't a problem today.
I could see that.
But starting up vehicles in the 1940s, it was a lot different. And yeah, you could flood the hell out of your engine with gas, and then you were just stuck.
Anything with a carburetor,
True.
which all them old cars have carburetors, so
Mhm.
gotta clean your carburetor, people. Clean it.
As winter gave way to spring, the family planted their garden over the buried remains of their former family home. However, new claims kept the belief that the children were alive going for the family. A bus driver who had been passing through the area claimed to have seen people throwing quote unquote fire bombs at the house.
That's what I thought about when you said the noise. So
Something going
it's like a
think.
Molotov.
That's exactly what I thought. Molotov cocktail. But I don't know. Then again, you think of a Molotov that's glass. If you throw in it hard enough to hit the roof over there, it's probably going to shatter. But
Probably.
all right,
I'll
listen. A few months later, after the snow melted, Sylvia found a small, hard, green, rubber ball like object in a nearby bush.
hmm,
Remembering what Jeannie said, remembering Jeannie saying she heard a thump on the roof that night, George believed it was a quote unquote pineapple bomb grenade or some other incendiary device used in combat.
hmm.
The family would also go on to claim they believed the fire had started on the roof, but there was no way to prove this. Then came the reports of supposed sightings of the missing children. One woman who had witnessed the fire from the road claimed she saw the children peering out of a passing car window, and another witness claims to have fed the children breakfast at a rest stop the next morning. The Sodders hired in a private investigation from the nearby town of Galdi Bridge named C.C. Tinsley. He informed the family of the president, ugh,
That
president.
son of a bitch.
And listen, if he would, you know what? I bet. Trump Sr. has some shit to do with it. You know what? Nothing's your fault anymore. It's all his fault. We gonna blame it all on him.
I'm off the hook.
You're off the hook, baby.
Hey, did you hear that, guys?
He informed the
I didn't
family
do it.
of the presence of one of their enemies on the coroner's jury, as well as rumors that Morris had found a heart in the ashes and had buried it. Morris allegedly confessed what he had did to a local minister, who in turn told the Sodders. They went straight to Morris to confront him, and he admitted what he had done. He then took them to the location and they dug up the box. George and Tinsley took the organ to a local funeral director who told them, after he examined it, that it was not a heart, but was instead a beef liver and had not been in the fire at all.
All right.
Rumor would later circulate that Morris had taken the liver and buried it in the hopes that the Sodders would find it and be satisfied that the children had died in the fire.
Hmm.
Why, sir? Why? I don't understand how 5 kids go missing and everybody's like, "You know what? Let's just chalk it up to their death. They just died in the fire." I'm sorry, 5 kids went missing. You need to either figure out if they fucking dead or where the fuck they at.
Yeah. It
But we know nowadays
it
that,
would it
they
would have
don't
been.
care.
I mean, it would have been totally different nowadays. But
Would it?
well, I mean, I don't know.
Would it?
I don't know.
If a political
If they
opponent's
were
children went
immigrants.
missing. Look at fucking Savannah Guthrie's mom.
This is true.
Look at Nancy Guthrie. Where the fuck she at?
Yeah.
Who kidnapped this little old lady? Because Savannah's over here doing news stories that some people don't like, but don't come at me. I don't want to die. Jeannie and George never gave up hope that their children were still alive. In one instance, George saw a picture of a group of ballet dancers in a magazine and believed one of the girls to be their daughter Betty. He drove all the way to New York to see the girl, but obviously was not allowed inside. George also attempted to get the FBI involved in the George also attempted to get the FBI involved, but the at the time director Hoover responded to his pleas with, quote, "Although I would like to be of service, the matter related appears to be of a local character and does not come within the investigative jurisdiction of this bureau." End quote.
Hmm.
Sure. There's a possibility that this man's children were kidnapped, possibly by the mafia or some other foreign agent, but that's not within the purview of the FBI?
I
Sure.
mean, that should be what the FBI is
It's
doing.
literally their fucking job.
Yeah.
He said, of course, local law enforcement reached out to ask for help. He said, of course, if local law enforcement reached out to ask for help, they would, of course, assist them. But to that point, they had not asked.
I mean, were the FBI in on it too?
No, I will say, spoiler, they do eventually attempt to investigate,
Right.
but I think it was just, especially in the 40s, like, there was this dick measuring contest between law enforcement, where local law enforcement, like, if the FBI tried to come in, it was like, "Oh, this is my investigation," and they didn't really care about getting to the truth of the matter, they just wanted to be the one to win.
How old is the like since the
It was started
teens?
when the Osage murders happened. Like, that's when the FBI really took off, was
So
when
I
the
mean,
Osage murders happened, which
those were what,
the
40s?
killer of the flower moon, uh,
I should just ask it since I have
just
an
to
extra
Google the
note right here.
Osage murders,
When did
1920s.
when July 26, 1908. So they've been around for 50 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, they started in 1908, but they weren't, like, what they are today until after the Osage murders. At that point, they were just going after, like, bank robbers and shit,
Yeah.
but they didn't really start investigating serious crimes until the Osage murders happened.
Right.
Um, Thanks to Indigenous Tales for covering that, and I think
It's a
Morbid maybe
fascinating
covered it.
story.
Honestly, I think most of the podcasts I listened to have covered it because everybody was like, when that movie came out, everybody was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
It's a fucked up story, is what it is.
it is.
In August of 1949, George was able to get Oscar Hunt, a pathologist from Washington, D.C., to conduct a new search of the dirt at the site of the fire. During the search, they found the children's dictionary as well as coins and several small pieces of bones. The bones were sent to the Smithsonian Institute to be examined by Marshall T. Newman. From his inspection, he claimed that they were in fact lumbar vertebrae belonging to someone between 16 and 22. While some children may grow faster than others, the oldest missing child was only 14 at the time of the fire.
Hmm,
Newman also claims that the bones, much like the beef liver, showed no signs they had been in a fire.
hmm.
He also thought it strange that there were no other bones present in the dirt. As we said earlier, there would have at least been the skulls of the children left over from such a fire, or should have been the skulls left over from such a fire, because your skull is
Sure.
like thick.
Yeah.
Your skull should be thick to protect that sloshy, spongy thing in there. Newman's report concluded that the bones probably came from the dirt George used to fill the site. Much later, Tinsley claimed the bones came from a cemetery in Mount Hope, but never explained why.
Hmm.
The Smithsonian gave the bones back to George in September of 1949, and their whereabouts are now unknown. The West Virginia legislature held two hearings about the case in 1950, but in the end, the governor and state police superintendent both told the Sodders the case was hopeless and closed it at the state level. The FBI did finally get involved, investigating it as a possible interstate kidnapping, but dropped the case after 2 years of chasing dead end leads. Again, the family refused to give up hope. They soon started putting up flyers offering a $5,000 reward for information that would lead to a resolution in the case. In 1952, they erected a billboard on the site, as well as one along US Route 60 near Anstead.
Amstead.
An, 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 Anstead. Yeah, no, that took me a second because it's A-N instead of A-M.
Mhm.
Shortly after this, they received another report of a sighting, this one taking place years earlier, 1 week after the fire destroyed the house. A woman who ran a local hotel in Charleston, West Virginia, claimed that she saw the children come in with four adults, two men, and two women around midnight. The woman stated that when she attempted to talk to the kids, she got a hostile look from one of the men, who then turned around and started talking rapidly in Italian. She claims the whole group quit speaking to her and they left the hotel early the following morning. Law enforcement did not take her report as credible, though, as she had not seen what the kids looked like until years later, which really makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. They're like, oh, well, she didn't see pictures of the kids until 2 years later. And it's like, okay, so it sparked a memory. Hey, I think I saw those kids a couple of years ago in the hotel. Like, what? I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
George took to following up on any leads or tips that came his way. When he heard about that Martha was being held in a convent in Missouri, or when he heard about someone in Texas talking about the fire, he traveled to those places himself to follow up. He did the same thing when he heard that one of Jenny's relatives in Florida had children with a striking resemblance to their missing children. He drove all the way down there and made them prove that they were the children's parents. Which, like, of course they look like your children. They're related. They're cousins, my dude. Come on. But grief makes you do crazy shit.
Yeah.
In 1967, George traveled again to Texas, this time to Houston, after he received a letter from a woman claiming her friend had drunkenly revealed that he was Lewis. She told them she believed he and Maurice were living in Texas somewhere together. When George and his son-in-law Grover arrived, however, they were not able to speak with the woman, so they went to the police who helped them track down the two men she had been talking about, only to have them deny being the missing boys.
Hmm.
The family received another letter that year, one that gave them the most hope the children were still alive. Jeannie went to check the mail one day and found an envelope addressed to her with a Kentucky postmark and no return address. Inside the envelope was a picture of a young man around 30 who looked a lot like Lewis. On the back was written, quote, Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, little boys, A90132 or 35, end quote.
Hmm.
Weird. The family hired another PI to go to Central City to investigate, but they never heard back from him and were never able to find him again.
Well, that was a con man.
That reminds me of what was the one chick? Amy Bradley? Frank? Frank, the alleged army vet that took like $25,000 from the Bradleys? Mm,
I think
makes
so.
me sad. Assholes. Special place in hell for you, motherfucker. In an interview George gave the next year to the Charleston Gazette Mail, he said that the lack of information was like running into a wall, but he vowed to continue the search. Whether it can be verified the kids died in the fire or if something else happened, George just wanted to know. But he would never get the chance to know what happened to his children as he died in 1969. Jeannie and most of the surviving children kept on the search for answers for what happened on that fateful night. I say most because John, one of the oldest, did not talk about what happened and just wanted his family to let it go and move on.
Hmm.
Sir. But they would not. Even after Jeannie's death in 1989, the other three kids, along with their children, continued to publicize the case and investigate leads. It has been theorized by them, as well as other area residents, that the children were taken by the Sicilian mafia in an attempt to extort George. They believe they may have been taken back to Italy and that they have not attempted to contact their family to keep them safe, which is wild. It's the kind of thing
Right.
that I'm like, that's a movie. But then we hear about all the terrible shit that's been happening for decades, and it's like, somebody could kidnap these kids and take them back to Italy, I guess.
Yeah.
We may never get answers for what happened to those 5 children that Christmas Eve. The youngest of the siblings, Sylvia, died in 2021, and though I am sure the grandchildren are still investigating, the missing children are probably all gone now by this point as well, as is anyone else who may have been involved in their disappearance.
Hmm.
So even if their descendants may be found someday, we will probably never know why they were taken if that is what happened.
Right.
All right, Bill, thoughts?
That's crazy.
Insane.
Sounds like an inside job.
But like, I don't know. It's hard to know though, because like, what did George do in Italy that made him leave Italy? And then now your kids are getting kidnapped and your house is getting burnt down. What?
Right.
What?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. But like I said, this case is over 80 years old. I don't have any links. If you have information, if you do, I'm sure you can find it online. But
Right.
at this day and age, I don't know that we'll ever get a resolution for the story.
Yeah,
It
probably
will
not.
be a mystery that endures on forever.
That's wild.
All right, friends. Thanks for joining us here for another lesson. We hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys later.
See you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.